Narcissists are slaves. Now you might hear that and be thinking like, wait a second, like that doesn't make sense. Like I felt like I was a slave in the relationship. I felt like I was the one that was trapped. And well, you probably were. That's probably why you're on this page wondering like what in the world is going on about narcissism. That's why I'm on this channel. I'm on this channel to bring about awareness, growth, healing, and change. I do that by talking to different people, by having my channels, by going live, by interacting with people one-on-one, by having the NARC app, all these different venues. Because a lot of people don't understand what it is. And a lot of people don't understand until they get out of the relationship. And they look back and they start to think, what in the world just happened? And they start to realize over a period of time that they have had a relationship that was manufactured from the other side, that actually put them through a grooming process to be able to get them and manipulate them to be trapped, to be stuck in that cycle of idealization and devaluation. And it happens over and over and over again that you get to the place that you just feel crazy. You just feel insane. But you start to feel trapped. And you're not sure if there's a way out. You're not sure if you're able to get out because of everything that that person has put on you, because of everything that they've said, how you're not worth it, how you're not good enough, how no one's going to love you, how no one's going to accept you having kids, like all these different types of things that pops up where they trap you and keep you there. So you might be thinking like, wait, like that doesn't make sense. Like, why would you be saying that narcissists are slaves? Well, I want to read you something today. I've got 2 paragraphs that I want to read. And if you haven't heard, each month I'm going through a book. Last month was Psychopath Free. The month before that was When Narcissism Comes to Church. This one for this month is not anything narcissistic related, but it's called the Motivation Manifesto, 9 Declarations to Claim Your Personal Power by Brendan Burchard. If you haven't had a chance to be able to read his book, it's got his really amazing book, High Performance Habits, or listen to his podcast, which is called The Brendan Show. But on here, it's going through and it's talking through one section that's about freedom. And I want to be able to read this and also be able to expand on this some so you can see the aspect that I'm coming from, that narcissists are slaves, and you also have the opportunity for freedom. Both of those things seem completely anti what you're going through right now, anti the craziness of everything going back and forth. So I want you to listen up real quick. The personal power is we're going to start over, okay? Personal power is directly tied to personal responsibility, which most people avoid. Some might hope that freedom means we can give up or release responsibilities from our lives, but nothing could be further from the truth. The thinking goes, if I'm free, shouldn't I be free from all responsibilities? But personal freedom is not liberty to finally indulge in whatever passing moods or inclinations strike our fancy. It doesn't mean that we can act on every fast need, be cruel to others around us when we feel like it, take whatever we want whenever we want it, or act as an irresponsible buffoon simply because it would be fun or pleasurable in the moment. All this would merely be slavery to unconscious impulse and compulsion. Now, when you think of that, I want you to kind of take it in the aspect when you're talking about a toxic person or someone that is, ego-driven and self-centered or narcissistic. Like when that thought actually comes out, like they want to think, I'm free from all responsibilities. And when you have the concept of, it's what, in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. When you have that thought, you think, hey, this person has a lot of power, they should have a lot of responsibility. When you think of the leaders of the free world, they have a lot of power, they should have responsibility in that aspect as well. Like it happens in all different aspects of our lives. So when it comes to it, you have a person that's toxic, narcissistic, sociopath, psychopath, whatever. They're toxic and they have a control over you. And at that point, they have power over you. But they're not taking responsibility of what's going on. They're not taking responsibility of their actions. They're not taking responsibility of the things that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. With all that power, they don't have that responsibility. And you see that happen time and time again in these people's lives where they come into your life and they want to have all the power, all the control, but they don't want to be responsible for how they get it, for how they manipulate, for how they lie, and for how they cheat. with the aspect of thinking that they can have ultimate freedom. Doesn't that match up for a lot of you, for what you saw on a day-to-day basis when your partner is out cheating with someone else, when they're yelling at you and then being nice to someone else? They want that freedom. They want the freedom to do whatever they want, whenever they want it, to have whatever they want, to go about and be cruel to others around whenever they feel like it. Like, literally goes down that list. They want that freedom, but they don't want the responsibility. And that is one of the hardest things for a narcissist to get past and get to the place where they actually admit and they have accountability and they have responsibility and they start to change. It doesn't happen because they're not willing to do the honest, vulnerable, hard work of saying, hey, this is who I am. But they'd rather take that freedom to an extreme and not have responsibility. Here's the thing I really wanted you to listen to. I really want you to hear. Freedom requires responsibility to choose who we are above and beyond our immediate impulses, needs, and social pressures, so that we can genuinely express the type of person we want to be, live the life we truly want to live, and leave the legacy we desire. Did you catch that? Freedom requires responsibility to choose who we are above and beyond our immediate impulses, needs, and social pressures. This is what differentiates a person in the toxic relationship. This is what differentiates you in the relationship right now that you feel stuck, you feel like you can't get out. Is that choice. Is that responsibility that you can choose who you are. You can choose who you're going to be. You can choose who you're going to be in the middle of the shit, in the middle of this relationship that is going to hell. You can choose who you want to be in that moment and say, I'm going to take back my power, I'm going to take back my life, and I'm going to focus on growing and developing myself. You can make that choice with boundaries. You can make that choice with getting out of that relationship. You can make that choice with going no contact. You can make that choice in setting boundaries with your family, in setting boundaries with your friends. You can make that choice every single day. But the problem is a lot of us think we don't have that choice. We think that it's been ripped away and we're no longer allowed to have it. That's what that toxic person in your life wants you to think. They've used all their manipulation, all their lies, all their gaslighting, all their love bombing, future faking, all the different tools they bring out time and time again. And when one stops working, they start using another one. And all for the effect of keeping you thinking that you are trapped. You're not. And I know that feels impossible. I know that feels like impossible to be able to wrap your mind around sometimes because you're like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to live? How am I going to provide? What am I going to do for my kids? How am I going to get out safely? How am I going? And the questions just keep coming and coming, and I understand. But I want you to understand that that freedom first is a choice in your mind. There's people that get out of relationships, abusive relationships, that go years without seeing that person, that go years without contacting that person, that break and have a good separation of it's no more, there's no contact. There's people that go years that are still trapped. There's people that go years that are still slaves to that thought process, to that mindset. What I want to encourage you today is to take back your freedom. Because regardless of what you've been in, regardless of all the shit that you've been put through, regardless of the relationship that you just came out of, regardless of how broken you feel in this moment right now, regardless of how crazy you feel, looking back on the situation or everything that you put up with or dealt with or had to endure, regardless of all that, you have the option and you have the ability to be free. But what's that going to look like on a day-to-day basis for you? And working with people, I actually read this today in a one-on-one when I was talking to somebody because I wanted to illustrate the idea that freedom is your choice. And freedom is in your ability, and freedom is in your grasp. But it first starts in the mind. It first starts in that mindset, in that thought process on a day-to-day basis of how am I going to choose to grow myself? How am I going to choose to be different? That's the difference between you and the toxic person in your life. It's because they don't make that choice. They make the choice to just live in this shit and to keep doing it over and over and over again. And it might look great as they move on with someone else, and you're thinking like, wow, they have it all together. Wow, maybe I was the problem. Maybe they're finding someone else new that's going to fulfill their needs. No, because the problem is they're not choosing freedom because they're not changing. They're not growing, evolving, developing, being vulnerable, being honest. All these are traits and attributes that you can adapt to, you can learn, you can grow, and you can be free. Will you take the moment today to start working on your mindset, to start changing your mindset of who you are, of what you're working through, and the concept that you're no longer trapped? It feels like it. It seems like it. Maybe it physically is in that moment, but you can get out. You can change your mindset, and you can be free. They're the slaves. You can choose freedom.